Ladies and gentlemen, hello again and welcome back to Don't Worry About the Government. My name is Chris Novembrino. I am joined on today's show by Lindsay Duke. Hello, Lindsay Duke.
Hello, Chris, but I think you should refer to me as Lindsay Duke elect. I will be taking on a superior title of Super Lindsay Duke on the 20th of January. Just FYI.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
figured you'd be like, what does a Duke get promoted to?
Duke Plus, just like Disney
Duke
Plus.
Plus. Okay, yeah. I feel like Duke is somewhere in the monarchy chain, right? Like,
Or
do
basically
you
the,
graduate from Duke to like Lord?
nah, that'd be beneath me.
Oh. Well,
Yeah,
la ti da. All
it's
right.
king or bust, man.
This is one of these elites. One of these government elites that I'm always hearing about. One of these high dollar elites.
Sorry, I
Um,
watched a lot of The Crown, so I'm really invested in my hierarchical standards.
and yet you don't know what a duke gets promoted to when they become president.
Me.
Yeah. All right. Well, fair enough. Um, so this is episode 2 on the events of 1/6, and I wanted to talk with you about it because you messaged me. You're like, I don't want to talk about it. And then also, when I was editing the last show, more stuff was coming out, as it is wont to do on a heavy news week like this. And I was getting to thinking that maybe on our first pass, I had been kind of reserved. I wouldn't say conservative. I'd say reserved and like not trying to pass judgments about some of the events until I had a fuller sense of what all the information is. After taping that first episode and getting some thoughts out, most of which they're all the broader thoughts I stand by. Just now I want to come back around and talk more about the event because in finding out more about the event, it has at least made me, and I don't know how you have felt about this, and we'll get to that in a second, but it's made me think about the nature and the gravity of the situation that actually occurred on 1/6 in a different way. And as such, it's made me recalibrate what the appropriate response is to what happened on 1/6. But, first you can react anywhere you want. We can pick it up from there.
I totally agree. I think as the chaos was happening, it was like watching a movie where you're just kind of caught in it, and the next thing happens and the next thing happens, escalate, escalate, escalate. I stayed up all the way until like 3 in the morning watching the confirmation of the certification of the election results, just because I'm like, who knows what's going to happen next at this point. But then the waking up the next day and kind of looking back and looking over all of the pictures and videos and inside accounts from representatives and people who were there, you just kind of you can actually take it in. It's kind of like, this is a horrible example, but I'm a movie film student, so it's like watching a movie for a second time and picking up things you didn't notice before. And wow, there's just so many fine details of absolute terror that we didn't feel or couldn't really register because it was so overwhelming in the moment.
Yeah, I think when I was watching it, I wanted to put it almost like a sports riot. Like I it's I think the statute of limitations are expired on this, and I'm out of the state of Massachusetts, so I'm probably okay on this. But when the Red Sox won the World Series back in 2004, I may have been a part of a Red Sox sports riot. I don't know. I'm just like I so I it had I'm just saying when I'm watching it, I'm trying to port this experience onto past experiences that I've had or may have not had at all,
Uh-huh.
and read about in books.
Of
Uh,
course, of course, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, and sometimes sports riots occur, like in '03, because things don't go your way. Sometimes sports riots occur with equal level of intensity because things do go your way. that's the great thing about sports riots. They don't make any sense, and there's not a whole lot of thought behind them. You're just doing them. And me watching 1-6, because the premise of 1-6 is so kind of fundamentally silly. Like the idea that there's a secret loophole in the Constitution, like this national treasure or something, where Mike Pence can magically unbound the leather tome with the sacred electors' votes and go, these are invalid. Trump is still president. And like Joe Biden and his entire team has to decommission their transition team, and like, well, I guess that's what's just going to have to happen. Like, I've got my criticisms about the Democrats and their ability to have steel in their spine, but that's not going to happen. That had a 0.0% chance of happening. So it's a fundamentally silly premise, much in the same way that men swinging furiously at tiny white balls is kind of like silly and being elated that the white ball has gone very far away from the original place that it was supposed to go. Like I was porting it onto that experience. And now I'm realizing that this is in many ways worse than Charlottesville. And I sort of like cruised by Charlottesville, and now I've realized, oh, if I want to start, what's the actual chain of events here that really got in motion? It starts the day after the election when Trump starts to refuse that he lost the election. And the 9 weeks building into this, including organizing these events, and that there was active organization of this online. You had amplification of Trump's loud voices and Trump's noted surrogates and preferred surrogates, guys like Rudy Giuliani, who the morning of said the phrase trial by combat on a live microphone hours before it started. I'm sorry, if we're looking for cause and effect, like, there's a great place to start. You have Trump tweeting about this rally on his Twitter account, his now dead Twitter account. We will talk about the deplatforming of Donald Trump here in the second part of the show. Don't worry, people. But that also happened while I was editing yesterday. Things are moving. Yeah. And I imagine I'll be back here in a couple of days to talk about impeachment from what I'm seeing breaking here as we're taping this. But one thing at a time right now. On January 1st at 2:52 p.m., he tweets, the big protest rally in Washington, D.C. will take place at 11 a.m. on January 6th. Locational details will follow. Stop the steal. Hashtag stop the steal. And that's coming from the @real Donald Trump account. Like the whole point here is that you can really draw this line going back weeks, and you start to see much more development and much more sophistication. And then we can get into the actual people who showed up that day.
I don't even know where to start, so I'll leave it to you.
No, well, okay. Do you want to talk? This is interesting because I want to get on the horse of terrorism in a different way, because we are seeing now people, some in law enforcement, especially in like local DC law enforcement, we'll talk about that in a bit, talking about this in terms of terrorism. And I have come around to that as a phrase, but part of what I find so persuasive is like, well, we'll get into the actual actions, but I want you to read off like a list of cult-like behavior here. It's like, where is this from? What is this? What are we about to hear?
Okay, yeah. Everybody's been, referring to, Team Trump as like a death cult for a while now, especially their behavior over COVID and their inability to accept that masks might stop people from dying, and the worship of his narcissism and ego and all the things that he needs to keep, this entire chaos going. But I also looked up a checklist of cult characteristics. This is from cultrecovery101.com. There's a fine list of things that may mean that you are in a cult. And the more you have, maybe you should get deprogrammed. So this is their checklist. The group is focused on a living leader who members seem to display excessively zealous, unquestioning commitment. I think we can say that's a no doubt with that statement.
And that is the backdrop of the pandemic. That's the other thing that has really made me kind of raise the bar of like what actually happened here symbolically. These people went out and risked their lives in a suicide bomber sort of way. COVID-19 is very real. Traveling through airports, assembling in large groups of people, like they all but like drank the Kool-Aid Jonestown style.
Yes.
Yeah. Continue.
The next point is the group is preoccupied with bringing in new members. I think that's an interesting, more theoretical thing you can think about, the idea that they spread through Facebook, and they're always trying to share things with you. Like,
and
did
Trump
you see
sort
this?
Of did bring in new members too.
Yes, he certainly did.
Yeah. Like whatever you like. This is why I don't think the decoupling is going to be so easy. He is very like the cult energy of his politics does attract people, and strange people who are normally. How many times have you read this story? So and so was not very political, and then Donald Trump showed up, and it's like a switch went off in their head. I was actually just talking to a friend yesterday, who relayed this story about a female friend of his who she went from being normal person in the office to being Trump train woman.
I think that's a very common thing that happens with people who go into cults. They're often looking for something. They're either depressed, or they have a sense of ennui, or they're, something's maybe midlife crisis. Something is missing, and that's where the cult leader comes and fills that gap.
Sure.
And it becomes, you replace your personality with theirs. It's like a thing that happens occasionally in fandom and big things like this, but when cult is like very toxic level of that, right? It's a whole different version. So yeah, I think that's what's happening with a lot of people, is that they do have real problems and real experiences that are making them politically interested for the first time, and their anger and frustration and all these things are coming from real problems, like maybe wage issues, things that all of us experience, but they need to find something very quickly to fill that. And there's always a grifter to come in and fill that gap. The next thing, the next thing on the list, speaking of that, is that the group is preoccupied with making money, which is interesting to think about, just because that's the entire sort of mythology of Trump, is the rich man who's going to make us all rich, right?
But his inaugural fund remains a point of investigation and curiosity for how much money it brought in, and for how crappy that inauguration was as an actual show, especially when you stack it up and compare it to other inaugurations. There doesn't seem to be a good accounting of the money, but it's always been about the money. And I think he started to really view the politics operation as a great way of getting money and being able to duck it.
The next one is a little less appropriate for this situation, but you probably could find moments where this would work for them. Mind-numbing techniques such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, debilitating work routines that are used to suppress doubts about the group and its leaders. I think the denunciation sessions kind of happen in a online form where if you're either with us or against us, sort of things. Like
Mia Love, she showed us no love, and now she's out of a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he really would do those pressers.
Plus, they have all the catchphrases in the world. You might consider that chanting or meditation.
Stop the steal. Lock her up. I mean, If I do that like 10 times, we're moving into a meditative rhythm.
The leadership dictates sometimes in great detail how members should think, act, and feel. More specific versions of that are usually in a cult, telling people who they can marry, how they can dress, all sorts of things.
But he'll actually say, now we love them, and now we don't love them. And the implication there is and he's using the royal we, but using the royal we like that also has the hypnotic kind of cult-like thing of like, that's how you feel about it too now. That we liked Mia Love. Now I'm just gonna beat up on her this whole show. We liked Mia Love, and now we don't like Mia Love at all.
Yeah, that's how he treated everybody who came to his side, and then he would, like, hey, Mike Pence, he's probably feeling this right now. The next point is the group is elitist, claiming a special exalted status for itself and its leaders and its members. Considered a messiah or an avatar.
And this one's interesting, but I'm gonna get you there because they try to run the veneer of we're the common man, we're the working man, we're standing up for the forgotten man. The hat's not elitist; it's a doofy fucking red hat, but they call themselves the winners. They always talk about everyone else as the losers. They're the winners.
Patriots.
Yep.
They're the real Americans.
The real ones. Yep.
The other aspect of that point is that the group and or the leader has a special mission to save humanity. So this is all about saving the world. You have to stop the steal to save democracy.
And think about the QAnon. Think about the QAnon narratives. The one that where like he was secretly working with Mueller to blow the lid off the child sex ring. The one where Trump was really going to come in there and revitalize America. I remember during the 2016 election, I listened to, I bet you they kicked Bill Mitchell off of Twitter, but I was listening to his show to really try to get my brain around, like, what is the politics of these people? And they were really convincing themselves of this idea that Donald Trump was going to come in and he was going to like revitalize the cities. And there's this great bill that is really interested in actually governing. And it was very obvious when he was running, like the guy's running, like it's a TV show to him. He's evil Chauncey Gardner from the movie Being There. He watches a lot of TV. He's running for president, kind of on a lark, kind of on a brand building exercise, kind of on I can make a lot of money doing this because he understands the campaign industrial complex. But they all believed that like Trump really cared, and his deep level of care, which is a fiction, was going to transmit onto him doing wonderful, wonderful things that are yet to come. That they're right around the corner.
I mean, that's very common. If you think about Charles Manson, the Manson family, how all of his little followers thought he was so special and brilliant and smart. And when you would get Charles Manson alone talking or explaining his side of things, he's just the kind of guy that was kind of flying by the seat of his pants and making things up along the way. He was improvising a lot of it. There wasn't a grand plan. He wasn't Jesus. There's a lot of great stuff thinking through all that.
Trump can't write a song half as good as Charles Manson, though. Charles Manson, some of Charles Manson's songs aren't actually horrible. Trump can't write a song.
Yet, Trump music 2024.
And you know what? I think how many people did Charles Manson get killed? I think Trump's actually probably beat that, especially when you throw in coronavirus. So if you think that's an unfair comparison, it's unfair to Charlie Manson.
Technically, Charles Manson, I don't think killed anyone. That's the problem. So this one you'll really like. I just keep thinking about Trump music, and I've just like he's been kicked off all of these social media platforms, and I wonder if SoundCloud has taken him down. Hey, follow my SoundCloud.
They were very unfair to me, and they treat me so unkindly. Banned from Twitter, banned from Twitter. It was very unfair, they would say to me. It's kind of like a Bob Dylan thing when you do it in Trump's voice.
You just kind of whip that out of the door, huh?
Yeah, I can just do that. Yeah, I've got like a few things. I wish I had like parlor magic because that one I think would be more useful, but I got that gimmick in.
Oh my gosh. Let's see here. The next point, I mean, it's like not even worth saying, honestly. The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which causes conflict with the wider society. That doesn't check any boxes for me, I don't think. How about you?
I can't really more that one in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here's the next one then, since that one doesn't really matter to us at all. The group's leader is not accountable to any authorities authorities,
Authority.
the authorities.
The authorities.
The group leader is not accountable to any authorities. For example, military commanders, ministers, priests, monks, or rabbis, or mainstream denominations, in terms of religious sects. The group teaches or implies that its supposedly exalted ends justify means that members would have considered unethical before joining the group. Wow, that last bit really hits home for me. Kids in cages. COVID, storming the Capitol, rooting for people being murdered because of the color of their skin.
This is actually where, so people will talk about how if Obama did it is kind of a lazy way of analyzing the presidency or this presidency. I actually think that it's more useful than people give it credit for, and it's very useful in contexts like this. You see how much moral slippage these people have. If their loved ones were dying of COVID, and like the same loved ones that probably have died of COVID, on Obama's watch, they would consider him a murderer, and they would be screaming murderer at him. And I think to that point, Joe Biden and the incoming administration might want to start recalibrating how they will be received and how much leeway they will be getting from the Trump people, because if they're this crazy now, and they're out of power, that's only, I think, going to get worse. Trump has revved them up, and it would be worse. We will
see what happens if there's a hangover or if they get a second wave. But there's another example of that idea of things that they would consider unethical before joining the group, but they do it anyway. Like that happened this week. All of them have the back the Blue Lives Matter mentality, and then the moment they are faced with actual police, they're telling them
that one quote from the guy, "We stood up for you.
We stood up for you."
Yeah, when everyone else hated you, we stood up for you. Like to the point where they're now screaming at the cops, "You owe me. You owe me." We're like, that really is, that we've gone from we back the badge to we bash the badge. And we don't like the badge.
Yep.
Sad.
Lots of chanting about. I saw so many videos where that was the entire theme of the videos. Incredible how many people they hated on Wednesday. I mean, it's just a Wednesday, y'all. It's just a freaking Wednesday. I woke up and for the first time all week, didn't immediately check the internet because I had real work to do. I didn't get on until literally 5 minutes after this started.
I thought to myself, caught so flat-footed on this. I'm embarrassed.
Me too.
No, you don't host a podcast covering 500 fucking episodes. Like I take these ones a little bit more on the chin, because on the 5th I had Joe Drilling on, great show, but it was sort of booked out as let's just chat because we're in a transition phase and we can talk about the future and talk about some broad stuff that we hadn't gotten to talk about, not really talk too much about Trump, because I, from where I'm at, am really would love to make him a B block of a story or a C block of a show and be able to talk about other stuff, not him, after 4 years of this. But I'm not going to stop doing it just because I'm tired of saying the word Trump. But if I could write shows about world events and shit, that'd be cool. But
we're forgetting that on Tuesday, I mean, I know why I stayed up really late the night before and I didn't really want to deal with this stuff on Wednesday morning. So I was watching the Georgia runoffs.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled and having a great time.
Yeah,
and so I'm thinking, cool, we're going to start off with the election. There's going to be that rally. Honestly, here's my confession. I was predicting it to be a sad little inauguration-sized thing. I knew that it was going to happen. It was going to be crazy people, and things might happen. But I'm thinking, I wonder how many people are just
the follow-up to the Charlottesville thing, when they all tried to show up in Boston and got completely surrounded.
That's kind of what I was anticipating.
That's kind of what I was anticipating. The other part of this is the events on January the 6th that Congress does are entirely ceremonial and performative. So I have never thought that they mattered because they don't. Like, and that was also to that point kind of, and you didn't hear this in the first show, but this is the thing I kind of like, why I kind of wanted to come back in and take a second pass on this. I was sort of dismissing a little bit of the gravity of this situation because of the fact that, like, this is all theater. Like, what is supposed to happen on this day is just ritual. If anything, it's a slightly unifying ceremony in a time where our very polarized politics has very few, like, even remotely nonpartisan moments where the Democrats and the Republicans just do the basic, like, ceremony of state shit.
Yeah, but
I just
unfortunately, due to
we
Ted
you
Cruz
can't
and
even
Josh
do that
Hawley,
anymore. Yeah.
yeah, Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley made sure that wasn't going to happen. Sadly,
Are there any
um,
more on our list of
this is
cult?
the final one, and I think
Final
it
one.
actually, the final one, I think actually predicts the future potentially
Oh,
more than anything.
I like future.
It's certainly the present, but the future as well. I think the leadership induces guilt. The leadership induces guilt feelings in members in order to control them. Members' subservience to the group causes them to cut ties with family and friends, to give up personal goals and activities that were once of interest before joining the group. Members are encouraged or required to live in and socialize only with other group members.
This is what I talk about as, on the last show, O-rings and off-ramps. I talk a lot about no off-ramps with Trump. Trump's narrative does not allow for off-ramps. And part of that idea is that once you get on the Trump train, they call it the Trump train. The train is a track. The track doesn't turn. It is a set path made by one person, and you can't control it. You're just on it. And I think it's like, yeah, I get Trump TR train TR, but like, it's also a very useful metaphor. It's riding with Biden. I would say I'm riding with Biden, but you could be riding on a coach. You could be riding on a boat. You could be riding on a horse. You could be riding on something that rhymes with horse.
It's the classic trolley problem, literally, because the trolley is just full of Trump people who are going to take anyone with them, and it doesn't really matter what the rest of us are doing and the decisions we make because they're going full speed ahead.
Only they get to be both on the train and then eventually on the tracks later on.
Yes.
Like it's a
They're
weird, yeah. You get to play both parts of the board. That's fun, for them. Yeah, something like that. So
that's cults.
That's cults. And now that we've kind of set that up, and I'll take that one step further, the commitment to the leader, I think, is amplified by the fact that all of these people were willing to do this in the midst of a pandemic. I said that earlier. I just want to hit that home again because it's really important context. It was dangerous for them to even assemble. And assemble they did at the behest of Donald Trump, who tweeted on January 1st, as I mentioned earlier, the big protest rally in Washington, D.C. will take place at 11 o'clock a.m. on January 6th. Stop the steal. The implication here being perpetrated by Trump and everyone using the Stop the Steal hashtag is that it is possible if we show up at Washington, D.C. in the Capitol and smash it up hard enough, we can stop the steal. The Trump people, the Trumpists, knock over a cop, shove him to the ground. At 2:50 local time, they broke through the police barrier. At 2:19 local time, one of them is caught on tape saying, "Start making a list, put all those names down, and we start hunting them down one by one, every single one of them. Listen, every news broadcaster, fucking tech giant Google. Fucking tech giant Google. There's more audio of people entering the building, the Capitol building, saying, kill him, kill him, kill him." Again, if you think that is loose, just consider the government response if these were Muslim protesters showing up and trying to take the Capitol, screaming, "Kill him, kill him, kill him." At that point, they break into the Capitol chamber floor. They start calling for the hanging of Mike Pence. They get confronted about leaving the premises on the grounds of trespassing. They refuse to do that. That's everyone there. They break down more barricades and shove police. Senator Todd Young screams at them to follow the law. That's a senator. Yeah. So one of them actually did, go like, "Hey, don't do that." Nothing. They grab a fire extinguisher and they smash through doors. And they also use stolen barricades as well to smash through doors. Um, they resist officers. The House of Representatives gets forced into a recess. One breaks into the Capitol building holding a Confederate flag. A mob of them attack and destroy camera equipment of the media. There's actually a video that's been making around. It's very scary of them grabbing one AP reporter, and they drag this man upwards of 100 feet from the Capitol building down the flight of stairs out to the pavement, and the guy's able to get away, but who knows what they would have done if they actually stomped him. What's up?
Is that the same video of the guy where someone comes up at the very end, hits the lens, and then he manages to hit the guy next to the cameraman, and he's broken the guy's finger?
I don't know.
There's another video of a reporter definitely walking. I don't know if we're talking about the same one, which is crazy because I'm thinking of, wow, there's multiple versions of this same story.
That's the other part. Yeah, right.
So what I'm describing is there's a journalist, photojournalist with a camera recording, seemingly walking backwards or something like that, and someone comes up and sort of dunks on the camera. As soon as they hit the lens, the camera moves down. There's someone directly next to the cameraman, and he holds up his hand like this, and the pinky is pointing like an L shape.
No, I wouldn't remember that one.
Like whatever he had done to hit, he'd ran into the person next to him and dunked into his hand and broken his finger. The guy was just standing there kind of flabbergasted, like, what just happened? So there's that video out there.
And it's important because just because Nancy Pelosi, Mike Pence, your least favorite member of Congress didn't get stomped into oblivion by this mob of people, it doesn't mean that it couldn't have happened. And the climate was there. These people, their mental state, their commitment to this project was whole. They were willing to put their own selves at risk. I mentioned obviously the COVID layer of this. The second part of this is like any reasonable human being, especially a patriot, knows that if you storm a federal building, you're gonna get shot. And they would normally encourage that to happen, especially if it was the wrong type of person. They should have known better. If you storm City Hall, we should shoot you. Like, how many of these exact same people were like, they should storm CHOP and they should deploy the National Guard, and every one of those people in CHOP should have been crushed with the jackboot. These people knew full well that if you do that on a government building, you're putting your life at risk. So you've got at least two levels of willing to risk your body for dear Mr. Trump and to rightfully get him to be elected again. And what they were doing to reporters and what they were doing to people, yeah, this could have went a lot further. If Nancy Pelosi had just been hanging out on the House floor for some reason and they had been able to circle her, that 80-year-old woman would be dead. Not a chance. Not a chance. They are. I want to just read some more of this. Again, put in your brain here if these were like Al Qaeda, Al Nusra, Antifa, all the terrorist groups. Antifa, the breakaway group from Antifa. There's no Antifa.
Don't tell Fox News that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? If they want to take Antifa from me, they can. But I want a little bit of credit. So they replaced the American flag with the Trump flag. So just again, imagine if that was like the Muslim flag or the Al Qaeda flag. Just think about that one. Lawmakers were evacuated. One of them is caught on tape screaming, "We will fucking kill you." I mentioned they flew the Confederate flag. They fire fireworks at the police in Salem, Oregon. They attack the police, hit them with sticks, bats, throw a sledgehammer at them, throw boxes and tear gas at them as well. They throw more tear gas at them. Oh, they brought improvised explosive devices and set them up at the RNC and the DNC. They smashed a bunch of Capitol property, including Nancy Pelosi's office. Trump tweeted during the midst of this, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts and not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to certify. USA demands truth. And also, these are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home in love, in peace. Remember this day forever. Remember this day forever. So yeah, like these people, I've way past rioter at this point. These people led a terrorist attack, and here's the other part that makes it important when we want to call it terrorist. And this is why the weird equivalencies about like, well, what happens when Black Lives Matter smashes up Target? Target, last I checked, does not have a voting say in the Senate or the House of Representatives. But when you go and your goal is specifically, as Trump even says himself, and as everyone who spoke at that Stop the Steal rally on the 6th, which said trial by combat, a phrase out of Rudy Giuliani's mouth that day, what they were trying to do explicitly was to scare lawmakers and intimidate them and not go through with this performative ceremony. It's not that they could have possibly changed the outcome of the election. It's that even the act of lawmakers should not do the ceremony that they were supposed to do, that's terrorism. Going there and actually, it's terrorism. It's protest if you show up and you're just like, don't do it. Don't do it. It's stupid. It's goofy. If you stand out of the stairs, you're not smashing one. That's covered by the Constitution. You're allowed to do that. You can scream at the ceremony all you want. This is America. What you're not allowed to do is grab barricades, use them to smash doors that you're not supposed to be going through, and try to attack lawmakers, set up a gallows, bring in zip ties, and like there are some zip ties that they were getting from the building, but there are also handcuff style zip ties that people were finding too. What were you going to do with those handcuff style zip ties that you found? Even if you picked them up from inside the building, picked them up why? Well, you know, like you just like, oh, what a neat souvenir! Things to tie up people and hold them hostage. Cool.
Yeah, one of the guys who picked up zip ties claimed that he was just going to give them back to the police.
What? That's fun.
Do it right.
That's fun.
Do a good deed.
It's cool.
Be a good boy.
He's not part of the Proud Boys. He's part of the good boys. The nice guys. And then we could get in, if you want to take a step back further, too. Now let's get into the level of sophistication among these gentlemen who showed up. Walkie-talkies, guns, tear gas. We talked about the improvised explosive devices, handcuffs and zip ties, the ability to restrain people, outnumbering the Capitol law officials. More about why that was happening in just a moment, but outnumbering the Capitol law officials 10-1. And organizational infrastructure and a territorial advantage that really gave them kind of free reign to do what they wanted. Did I miss anything in terms of their sophistication?
There's a quote from BuzzFeed News from a black officer that was part of the Capitol Police, who was dealing with a lot of the racial side of the protests.
No, whoa. You're telling me after, in addition to everything, these guys are racist?
Yeah.
Whoa.
But he has a.
That's not okay.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, no, hey, look, this show takes a strong stand on that.
The BuzzFeed article has him quoted as saying, however, that it was a highly trained group of militia terrorists that attacked us. They had radios. We found them. They had two-way communicators and earpieces. They had bear spray. They had flashbangs. They were prepared. They strategically put 2 IED pipe bombs in 2 different locations. These guys were military trained. A lot of them were former military. That is from an anonymous source.
And these are the same people doing militia group. You know, being part of an active militia group is a little bit more of the mind state thing, but being ex-military also kind of tells us that you have that ability. the thing that I kind of think about in terms of legal precedent is like how if you're a boxer, you're not allowed to like punch someone in the face because that's considered assault with a deadly weapon because like you're actually a trained boxer. Uh,
I just saw another part of this article that's probably more terrifying in terms of
okay, hit me.
sophistication. The officer who was previously quoted described coming face to face with police officers from across the country in the mob. He said some of them flashed the badges, telling him to let them through and trying to explain that this was all part of a movement that was supposed to help.
That's the other part. That's the other part here. I think what has taken a real beating at the end of all of this is the hillbilly elegy forgotten man narrative that Republicans like to tell themselves about what the Trump supporter is, what accounts for this. Like, why is our republicanism really different now?
Yeah.
And
It's
they
not
tell
just, it's, you know, as a person from the South who knows the hillbilly type, the hillbillies, I mean, there's a spectrum of people who are out
I
there.
heard it
There's
with the
people writing on
authority earlier.
the authoritas. You know, there's plenty of people that are writing on jets, private jets, who booked plane tickets. I can't afford a plane ticket anywhere, let alone a round trip ticket to DC.
No, actually, to that point, anyone who has the ability and the resources to fly, that's that. There are a lot of people who are like, I think the average person who is behind on rent right now is behind by like $5,500. Is what I heard the other day.
Stimulus check, man, that paid for their round trip tickets from Southwest.
Well, a lot of people haven't even gotten those yet. But that would like that'd be like your whole. Well, prices are low right now, but to that, yeah, still, people who are able to fly, like, yeah, it's a bit of a luxury. But you also just see like attorneys and people who work at good jobs and tech jobs and stuff. The whole premise with the forgotten man narrative, the implication is it's the poor man, and that the Democrats, they betrayed the poor man, and that's what brought about Trump. That somehow Trump could speak to the poor man and say, "Poor man, I will make you rich." But the reality is not that, right? That Trump's people are often middle management guys. The dude who is a manager at the payday loan store, the person who is the mid-level grunt in a law firm, not the top attorney, but like sort of works there, the accountant guy, the guy who works at Liberty Tax, the woman who works at your office who used to just make pretty good baked goods, and over the last 4 years has lost her goddamn mind. Carol used to be cool. She used to be like, birthdays would come around, Carol was neat. Now Carol, she's the worst.
She's crying all the time about children around the world being abducted and put into Wayfair boxes.
Yes.
She's so upset, Chris.
And you'll see her and you'll see she's distressed, and you'll know that Carol's upset because of politics, and she knows better than to fully blurt out the office, but you can see that this politics stuff, it's ruining Carol's day, and you used to like her. She used to make good treats. But they're gone now, Linz. Never to return. No, the Forgotten Man thing, they're not poor. They're in a lot of cases in the middle and upper class strata. They are people who have, you mentioned earlier, I think there are people who are kind of a hashtag going through it. Lose a dad. I don't necessarily think it's like politics, right? Like you lose your mom, you lose your dad. You spent the last 7 years taking care of an ailing parent who never really loved you in the first place. Maybe you went through a bad divorce. And that was the catalyst. Like lots of different non-political events, I think, lead to this thing that Trump's speaking to, this rage and this idea that like there's a person, they're out there, they're screwing you, and I alone can fix it.
Think about it again from like a cult religious experience. You are America as religion, okay? The American dream is your heaven, your thing that you're trying to reach. And you are in your mid 40s, you're doing okay, but you're paycheck to paycheck, and there's a constant anxiety. You have some sort of racial tension that you either don't feel any guilt for, you feel slight guilt for. You have some sort of pressure from the outside and all this chaos, and things are changing very fast. And you've got this social media thing that you're just now on because in 2010 your kids got on it and you wanted to watch their pictures and videos that they were sharing. And then suddenly,
I'll even
you
throw
know,
in one more
your
thing. You made some mistakes. And,
yes,
and I think that, like, if we want to talk about what's the forgotten part of the formula here, because it's hard to quantify, because like only you can tell you what's the mistake that you made in your life. Mistakes, a scarring mistake, and by the time you're in your 40s, you got a scarring mistake. You and I probably have a shared scarred mistake
yeah.
from a former employer here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm so that sort of you're seeking the nirvana of their American dream, and yet here you have done everything you think you're supposed to do, but you are not a millionaire, and everything isn't perfect, and you've got personal anxieties that are happening and relationship problems, and everything's sort of crashing together. And this is a universal experience, remember, but they think theirs is special. Um, and then a Messiah, the cult leader, comes by, and he has his sacred texts in the, his Trump book, but also the Constitution. And he's saying, hey, I'm going to bring this back. We're going to go back to the basics.
I alone can fix it.
Yep.
That line. There are. I could shoot a man in Fifth Avenue and not lose any support. There are lines that I think maybe sometimes got at certain points invoked as cliched to a point of cliche, but are also very important inflection points because it's very strange to hear anyone in your life in any facet say a thing like that. Like if I said, "Don't worry about the government," when I get into this microphone, I could say anything. I could tell them to go kill a man in Fifth Avenue, and they'll go and do it for me. Like that. That's like the final act of the movie where I lose all my supporters and everything. Like, yeah.
If you're ever in that situation where our friendship is probably definitely over by that point.
Lindsay, I have them. I have their minds. No. That's a weird thing to want. To even want, and it's an even weirder thing to say out loud. And third, it's a weird thing to say out loud and not face retribution from, because as I said, that old movie, A Face in the Crowd. I don't know if you've seen that. Andy Griffith's in it. So
no.
It's good. It's good. He's like a populist demagogue radio show host.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, check it out. It's really good. Face of the Crowd. But Lonesome Rhodes, which is his name. At the end of this, like Lonesome Rhodes is like telling everyone and getting his supporters all riled up, and he can't get them back in. That's normally how this movie's supposed to end. Like there's supposed to be a breaking point. What was very scary with Trump and what people who have poo-pooed my concerns about him on the right and also on the left, the kind of like Tucker Carlson left or whatever. Glad that lots of people listen to the show, but like I got a lot of poo-pooing about this. There's supposed to be a point where it's a breaking point for his supporters. And that's not really happened. It's like even now, it's not really happening. A lot of them are still hanging around with him. You're getting a few performative resignations, but like there have been things all along the way where there have been performative resignations. People have actually, the whole trick to leaving this White House is you go in, you work for them for a time, you make your Trump money, and then at the end you go, this Mueller probe has finally gone too far. I can't believe his campaign manager's a crook. This Mueller probe is gone, or like that sort of thing. Yeah, you just have a moment. Now that he's locking kids in cages, I suddenly see that Donald Trump might not be the man I thought he once was.
So if you're at that level of the badness stage, you have moral high ground over people who have lasted longer. Whoa, kids in cages, I'm out. Everybody who stayed after that.
Yeah. So to that point, as just like a quick aside, let us give people who went never Trump in 2016 some credit, especially as we're watching the Elaine Chaos and Betsy DeVos's and these other worms crawl out of the administration and be like, I have finally seen too much. Like, no, they deserve no credit. The people who deserve credit for going, nope, not doing Trump, because it was at personal pain to them, are like the Matt Lewis's of the world, Jonah Goldberg, the Bulwark, Charlie Sykes, even the Project Lincoln guys. Did they find ways to make money on the back end? Sure, but they took financial pain first and decided that they were going to cut ties because Yeah, like to this point, Linz. Like, yeah, no, I'm not saying like let us all love Project Lincoln. But those people are clearly at a moral status that is much, 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 much higher than Elaine Chao, Betsy DeVos, Miles Taylor, Anonymous, who's like, I'm fighting the Trump administration from
I
inside the
forgot
White House.
all about him.
Yeah, he was scolding people about showing courage. I shit you not. And actually, the thing that kind of annoys me here, and the other reason why I want to bring this up is I think it's a real risk here because the media loves this redemption narrative shit. That the late defectors 13 days out from the end of his administration might get treated with like more heroism than the people who left mid-administration, the people who never signed on to his bullshit in the first place. And
Yeah, this took 2
clearly,
weeks notice, man.
the veneration should go upwards. Like if you said nope in 2015, you're like a good person. If you said nope when he got the nomination, you're like a notch below. If you said nope after he won the presidency, a notch below that. If you said nope mid-administration, but you still went and worked for the guy anyways, that's a level below. If you rode through the midterms in Charlottesville and like Charlottesville, because a lot of people left in Charlottesville was too far for you. That's another notch. If the Mueller probe was too far for you, and you started to realize that he was covering up fucking everything and trying to completely obfuscate any attempt to investigate him. It's another level. Like you left, okay, fine. We're at my foot. We're way off camera now, like way down here. Actually, Chesterfield Cat, go downstairs. Where Chesterfield Cat has now adjourned to. That is where the moral standing is of all these people. And beneath where Chesterfield Cat's at right now, no knock on him. Chesterfield's a good person. He's not the low man on the totem pole here. It's all these worms from the Trump administration. Would be Mike Pence, who is riding this fucker all the way to the ground and is trying to act like, well, I had no idea, sir. Well, yes, Mike, they came to kill you too. And you should have known that. Why? Because you've been working with this guy. Why? Because you just ran for re-election alongside this guy. Like, you don't get to go plausible deniability. You don't get a path back. He can't. Pence, I mean, we know the 25th Amendment stuff's not going anywhere. Like, he's not going to be able. I mean, I like the idea of it. But like, it's the timetable of the 25th Amendment and like how the letters have to go back and forth and everything. I actually think like the calendar is too long now to actually do the 25th Amendment because there's like the cabinet all votes. Then there's a letter that gets made. Trump gets like to respond to that letter within 7 days. And if he says, I'm fine to stay president, then it goes back, I think, to Congress. And then like, it doesn't work. Pence could resign, which would be pathetic again, but would at least be something. Or, you know, he could actually tell Trump to resign. Either one of those things. But he deserves, like, I'm seeing that Biden and all of them want to have him at the inauguration, and I don't think he should be there. I get that he was also scared for his life on the events of 1/6, but that's because he made them. Sorry, yeah, like sorry, this murderous swarm of hornets that you unleashed is now trying to kill you too because they're hornets and you unleashed them. But you knew you were unleashing hornets. That doesn't actually make you like, oh, now that I am dying of hornet stings, these hornets are horrible. Like, no, that's not how it works. You were part of making the swarm.
As you described, like the levels of, you know, moral uprightness of each person and how it gets further down until Mike Pence, you've basically described like Donald's Inferno.
Yeah.
The circles of hell that lead down to Mike Pence, down at the center. Just levels and levels and levels of bullshit. And guess what? You're still in hell.
Yeah, you know, this damn fool, what he should have done really is commit himself all in because Trump's going to do those self-pardons. I expect those self-pardons to drop relatively quickly there, if not by the end of the weekend. There's already been scuttlebutt about that on Bloomberg. I talked about that a bit on the last episode. So to recap, it's Trump, it's like Dan Scavino, it's Ivanka, Lil Wayne. hilariously. Yeah, I know. It's Trump. Like it wouldn't be Trump if there wasn't like a one like what? Pardon? But Lil Wayne being on the leaked list. And yeah, no, I think if Pence had played it loyal, he might have even been able to kind of play to the inheritor thing. But like at long last, Pence is not this guy. Like he can't do the charismatic thing. And there was also no way for him to deliver. What the genius of what Trump did here is he walked Pence off of a plank. I think it's underappreciated in the awfulness of what Trump constructed here. And watched, I forgot to mention when we talk about culpability, Trump watched all of this in a tent. Have you seen the video of this?
Video of him watching it?
Yeah, there's video of him. Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Video of him and Don Jr. and Guilfoyle and all of them like hanging out in like one of their little. I will send you the link.
Oh, I have been waiting for someone to start posting videos.
Nope, that video exists. That video 100% absolutely exists. Let me get it up.
I take one nap during the day and everything changes.
Yeah, so we got zip tie the hostage guy. They tried to call Trump from Pelosi's office. Oh, I forgot to mention one other thing they did. They stole a computer from Pelosi's office that could have given them potentially access to classified information.
Yeah, just a little casual.
If Al Qaeda did it, what would they want? What would the Dems? What would the general government response be on this? Okay. And now the next thing I gotta do here is I've got to like somehow figure out a way to get this up on our screen for our friends here watching. All right. So if you're watching, I'm gonna put it on a screen share here. If you're not watching, now's a great time as I am trying to transition the video to remind everyone that Don't Worry About the Government is a listener-supported show. So a bucket show is all I'm asking. I'm cranking out the episodes. I want to make sure that I've got a cool, good product for you that's coming out in a timely manner. Sometimes I'm not working, not doing my contracting job to make sure these episodes are getting out to you. All I ask for that's a buck a show. That basically keeps me even with the contracting money. So like it really is basically equilibrium. And for those of you who've been longtime supporters, and there have been many here, including people who've supported the show for a year or more. At this point, let me just say, my sincerest and supremest thanks. Like it's like humbling in a way. I really do appreciate it. All right, I think I've got it up. Here's now for those who are supporting the show, you can finally witness what does the Don't Worry About the Government Twitter account look like. Can you see that, Linz?
Yeah, I can see.
All right, cool. We're bringing it to full screen here. Look at there. There's Donnie. There's the riot, and everyone's assembling, getting ready, so he knows about the best is yet to come. Gloria's playing on in the background here at full volume. And so, just in case you were wondering, even when he's on his own, there's Don Jr. There's Kim Guilfoyle. It's crazy how loud they listen to music. These people are pretty crazy. Is that
That's Ivanka.
That's not Kellyanne Conway, right?
No, that's Ivanka. You can tell by
it's Ivanka. That's right. Yep. So these are all people who are going to get pardoned. And there's Eric, little mutant Eric Trump. Yeah.
Wow.
So gives you a sense of like, was Trump watching this on TV? Was he able to actually process it? Oh yeah, no, he knew exactly what he was doing. Stop the share. And now the screen share is done. You like I referenced Stop the Steal there. You like that?
Yeah, I was appreciated. I got it. We're good.
That's fine.
The artistry was appreciated. Okay.
I guess. Okay. Great. Whatever. All right. Let me see. What other topics do we need to hit on this?
Just the entire nonstop.
Okay, so can we talk about now that we've talked about this? Obviously, I think Trump should be held accountable. Howley and Cruz, it looks like a lot of pressure is being put on them to resign. I don't know if they will. It's going to be interesting though. It'll be interesting to see if McConnell offers him up as sacrificial lambs,
Oh
especially
yeah, that'd be fun.
especially because Cruz does not have actual friends up there, really.
Right.
Like as Al Franken says in his book, sort of famously, I'm one of the people who likes Ted Cruz more than most people in Congress, and I hate Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he has an entire chapter on Ted Cruz.
Isn't
Oh, go ahead.
Mitch famous for saying that if you killed Ted Cruz on the Senate floor, uh, no jury would convict you or something like that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I that is a quote.
I'll find the verbatim.
But he doesn't have allies for this, and the what I noticed was the dynamic shifter. And this is like a tragic and sad commentary on America. Was when they found out that the cop had died of his injuries. That the lawmakers were all of a sudden like, oh, I see. It was one thing when it was MAGA Chud dying of like their own, of their own stupidity or getting injured of their own stupidity for them. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't want to tease it out right now. I guess I have to think about that more. But it was a completely different thing for them. One that I do feel uncomfortable about. When it was like, oh, well, the cop's dead. Now we got to take this a lot more seriously. And it does seem like those lawmakers are going to face consequences. But the Democrats control Congress and they control both houses. And I expect rules and process changes to be punitive on these people. There was a sedition caucus in the House. Pelosi needs to punish the House Republican caucus, at least all of the sedition caucus members, and needs to make it pretty clear to McCarthy, who also was an enabler of this, and also someone who is preaching stop the steal, that there's going to be penalties for your caucus because of what you did and the fact that you participated in the stop the steal narrative, which was instrumental in getting all of these Trumpists to fly on the plane believing that they could stop the steal somehow. Like, if you don't have all these lawmakers saying it is possible to stop the steal if you show up and interrupt our ceremony, it is much harder for Trump to get his narrative off the ground. If Trump is being defied by his own party, like in concert, like if Trump is saying you can stop the steal if you go up there, Mitch McConnell and like Ted Cruz and everyone's like, no, you can't. No, you lost on that. This wouldn't have happened. It doesn't happen. Yes, Trump is responsible. I'm 100% not letting him off the hook, but he's not sufficient for this. It takes them. They are necessary. They're not just complicit. Their actions were necessary to get to here.
Yeah, going back to the cult, there's plenty of people who've done horrible things in the name of their cult leader, and they at times are worse than their cult leader. Like I said, Manson didn't go and kill those people. His followers did, and they went to jail just like he did. We have the awful, just, there's so many stories of this sort of behavior, and it always ends with the followers doing worse because no one is as dangerous as a convert. And the true believers, or at least the people who really want you to believe they're true believers, they enabled this so much that their crimes at times are 10 times this. I'm losing words because it's hard to fathom.
I think
what they could have been doing for 4 years. This is slowly and then all at once. This is how, I don't know. We talked about how we were kind of surprised at what happened. Why are we surprised? I mean, I'm not surprised, but I am surprised. I guess we're just
because
constantly getting a new high.
In my head, the pandemic, even with Trumpists, a lot of them do seem to actually process that they need to wear a mask. Like I know enough Trump supporters who wear their mask and actually do their shit, especially if they have an underlying health condition. That like I would have assumed that go and participate in a fantasy rally for your president in Washington, D.C., not just a fantasy rally, but like a fantasy expedition that we're going to overturn the election, would strike even people who voted for Donald Trump as a bit absurd, especially in the midst of a pandemic. And what I'm rattled by is that you can still get thousands to turn out for this
Yeah.
cause.
You can
And
get
they came from all over the country at no small expense to themselves and at great inconvenience, because flying through that airport was a pain in the ass. Like they had to do like COVID screenings and all that stuff. Like they got reminded that they were in a COVID risk scenario time and again throughout this process, and they went through it. Like it, to me, that just like, as dumb as we think MAGA chud is, and I the bar is low. I don't think very highly of these people. If you've listened to the show, um, as low as the bar is, I sort of think it's kind of like, to me, it's like driving up an off ramp, right? Like at some point you have to go, oh, I am driving into oncoming traffic. There's one car, there's another car. What's happening? Like something eventually makes you get off the highway, at least in my head.
And yet.
Oh, and yet.
And with the history of cults, that's not what happens.
No. No, it takes a tragic event.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that's the worst part. I don't think this was it. Like this was
terrifying.
Tragic. Thing. This was tragic to the norms dreaders. Oh, my norms. But to them, it wasn't tragic to them. And the more the media gets aghast about it, and especially if the politicians overreact and go like, we deserve more security, and we like, if they overreact in that direction, I think it's really going to play into the narrative that like the elite stole the government from them and that they want to take it back. Here's the thing that I think is really scary, Linz. I brought up in the last show. Actually, I brought it up with Joe Drilling too. I'm going to keep bringing it up. Trump picked up supporters. He governed the way he governed over the last 4 years, in particular this last year, and he gained supporters.
Yep.
Yeah. They're in.
The history of the 90s white supremacist terrorism was a story in 3 acts. You had Ruby Ridge, where it was a single family that the FBI and everybody completely fucked up. Then it escalates to the size of Waco. It fucks up. And then it ends with the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma by Timothy McVeigh. And I'm wondering if this was Act 3 or Act 1. Because people like this, the people who went into that Capitol building, you can see it in the video. It's very obvious that there are different shades of people there. There are people who, like we've mentioned, came prepared with their zip ties and their tasers and all sorts of military gear, and they're ready. They wanted to fight. Then there are people who got inspired by the fight as the energy ramped up, the people who just want to do a bar fight. And then there are people who just were the dog chasing the car.
Like you have the LARPers too. Like, yes. and I actually like the LARPers in a way. I think most of us, you see woolly mammoth guy, like the woolly MAGA, and you see like the face paint people and stuff, and like, yeah, these people are on a political LARP. Like yeah. It's not. They're not.
Grandmas. Some of them were literally like grandmas.
Yeah. That's just like that's the political theatery thing that like we do from time to time. Like that is innocuous, and I have no real like we should not be bashing that MAGA chud's head. Like what I am talking about, and the problem with those people, one is those people I hope come to their senses, and if they keep showing up now and they can't, like at a certain point you do have agency for what you see, and if you see something, you gotta say something, do something.
I think that's my fear though, is that all it takes is one.
Like this is the other thing, is they really encouraged assembling in crowds. The quote I've got here is, make sure you stay in groups of 10. DC can be a dangerous place. This is them speaking to protesters on the 5th The fifth, which, oh, by the way, did result in a bit of a police confrontation and like batons and that sort of thing, and like skirmishes with the cops. So like, I am
That's what I
worried.
was anticipating. I was anticipating the Proud Boys doing their up and down streets,
But yeah, the Proud Boys bar
and then the
fight level of
organized
this.
group at the like the
Yeah.
on the lawn,
But what alarms me is that you now essentially have like a weird militia thing where you have like the Proud Boys bar fight battalion, and they can kind of come out there and act like, oh, this is just like, these are guys and they're rough and they're gonna fight and scrum and stuff, but like at the end of the day they'll go home or go to the bar, you'll arrest them. You have MAGA chuds, but those people will serve as sort of like the human shield, human opening salvo for the right-wing militia black bloc part of this. Yeah. And those are the people you actually have to be worried about, because they will often be operating under the cover of MAGA chud, like boring face paint grandma woman. And does she know about the terror attack? No. But does the guy who has the bear spray and the zip ties know about it? And with on the comms line? Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
What the problem is that within the extreme violent and possibly terror, like actually going to blow up something giant kind of people, there's usually two types. There's a very, very intelligent and know what they're doing types, like the Timothy McVeigh trained types, military background, had all of the things they needed to do. He had a plan. He went there and executed the plan, and he fucked up because he left his driver's license off. You always screw up right at the end. And then you have the people who they're getting this, and it is feeding into delusions. They're mentally ill, on top of being terroristic, and they will pop off. These are the people who usually turn into mass shooters. You're feeding people who are on the spectrums of reality at this point. That's the sort of powder keg that's happening here. There's some people who went to that rally, got their rah-rahs in, and went back, and they didn't do anything. And now they're watching, and they're like, why are they calling us terrorists? I had a good time. And then you have people who are like, damn it, I missed my shot. And then you have other types of that guy going, I must defend the president. He just lost his Twitter. Those are the two kinds of people I'm afraid of right now.
Yes. Yeah. No. And the people who are still yelling at Mike Pence and still saying, the people who are yelling at Lindsey Graham and saying, we're going to punish you, this isn't over. And let us not forget that when Trump was building his brand in 2015, he was going on shows like Alex Jones, and really trying to court the craziest people who are loosely associated with politics who might maybe vote. Like the Alex Jones person, they want to vote. They want to vote for a crazy person. Then they want a crazy person they can vote for. And Donald Trump went on Alex Jones's show back in 2015 and was sort of like, I'm that crazy guy for you people. And that he built that relationship with Alex Jones that went on and was very deep for a very long time, up until just today, where now he's like talking about how QAnon is bad. Donald Trump said that he's going to deliver everything to you, and he didn't deliver anything to you. Like, you loved him, dude.
These people.
I remember when he dropped the bomb on Syria, and you were heartbroken, like crying about it. Like, yeah, you loved him.
They all want to inherit the earth. That's the problem. There's all these people that are trying to figure out which way the wind is blowing. And
that's the other thing. Will QAnon turn on Trump? If QAnon continues to say Trump is good, then Trump's thrall, I think, is going to be deep. Like, what I worry about now is Trump is like the silenced president, which he will fucking love. And I think that will lead him to establish Newsmax or One American News Network. And there will be a reprisal. Actually, now that gets us into the next part of this conversation, which is about the deplatforming of Donald Trump. So I gotta tell you, there are really only two paradigms here. One where big tech can deplatform the president, and one where big tech does not have the power to deplatform the president. If you want the platform where big tech does not have the ability to deplatform the president, China is a great country, and they are doing it, because not a single tech company in China can deplatform Xi Jinping. So I think it's probably a good thing that Twitter can deplatform Donald Trump, and I think it's probably a good thing that Twitter did deplatform Donald Trump.
I think it's that simple. People who scream free speech haven't read the First Amendment, and they're the same people who always scream free speech because they still, after all these years, won't read the First Amendment. It's not very long. It's only like a paragraph. You could get the whole thing done in probably a nice quick minute. The government is in charge of making sure that they themselves don't infringe upon your right to say whatever the hell you want, except when it causes danger to other people. A business like Twitter is like inviting people into their home and you calling them names to their face and insult their wife and dog, and then being surprised when they kick you out of your, of the house for the very fine dinner party you've been invited to.
Yeah, Donald Trump tweeted on January 1st at 2:52 p.m. the big protest rally in Washington, D.C. will take place at 11 o'clock a.m. on January 6th. Stop the steal.
It's got the energy for that at 11 a.m. They're ramped up. They're high as a kite on all of this stuff.
They had a pep rally to start the day where they screamed trial by combat. They set the mood. They set the mood and then they moved into action. There are so many obvious processes here that, like, yeah, there needs to be real accountability for it. And for all the people who organized it, and like that does involve Trump, and that's why he's considering the preemptive pardons. I guarantee you. It's like
100%.
Yeah, it's part of it was always being kicked around for him, but the reason when you look at that list of who was preemptively pardoned, and then you watch that video that we just watched here on the video version of the show, and I guess I probably won't be in the final edit of it, but like it was there, guys. It was really interesting. Go and check it out. Support the show. But like if you watch that video, I think most of the people in that video are on the preemptive pardon list. And if they're not on that list, they might want to try to find a way to get on there relatively quickly.
Yeah, it's a mess. Just watching everyone shut him down now after all these years is like just such a complicated feeling. He needs to be gone. He cannot have these platforms. These people who are inciting violence cannot have these platforms. You cannot scream fire in a theater. But my fear of being the kind of person who I like learning about cults and crime and all sorts of things is Trump is a narcissist. And narcissistic rage is terrifying. It results in family annihilators and all sorts of things like that. And
he's an escalator. So
yes.
like you bring up the narcissistic rage, but the other part is, and I forget his exact quote on this, but it's like you punch me, I have to hit back 10 times as hard. I couldn't remember if it's 3 times as hard, 10 times as hard. But it's the idea of like it's not. My conservative friend is like, well, it's a tit for tat cycle. I was like, no, it's never been tit for tat with him. It is you tit or I perceive a tit, you get 10 tats. And that is perceive a tit.
What a great sentence.
Yeah.
That needs to go down into your best quotes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You get 10 tats. And that's the Trump formula. So now that he doesn't have a way of just getting his message out on Twitter, and as he used to say, I wish I still had the drop. It's like how I go around the media. It's like a newspaper, and it's better than a newspaper because I can print it myself whenever I want. Now that you've taken those things away from him, he is going to want to get that back. And he's going to realize the only way to get that back, God fucking help us. And this is why, as weird as it sounds, the Twitter was actually a governing mechanism once he actually got into office. It was tempering him on some level. Now he will need to get that jolt from doing shit.
Yes.
And he will do dangerous shit. And more importantly, he will look for suggestions from people who we don't even know about at this point, but like probably like the Stephen Millers and like some of the worst people who are still on the fucking ship. Those people will be giving him suggestions of how for him to get that fix. It's not going to be like posting. Nothing's like posting. Posting, it just feels good. You just send it out. If you get that Twitter account back, Lindsay, feels good. And he will be searching for that, Jones.
He can't lose. He can't be a loser. This is the worst part about being a narcissist for him. It's a mental disorder that needs severe treatment if you suffer from it. You don't have the ability to lose. That's been his biggest problem, the way he focuses so much on winning and losing, and you're fired or you're hired and sort of stuff. So you've got this guy who has been humiliated by a loss in the election. He's been deplatformed. He's got every major Republican who wants to sort of stay on the friendlier side of politics denouncing him. But he's also got this really rabid group. The simple thing would be, hey, go find some sort of domain where you can post things every day, all day, just like the.
But he's been kicked off of a lot. Like that's the thing. He needs to get his fan base back now.
Yeah. They'll just go to the dark web.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Well, and this is also why I think he'll need a network. I think what this has done really is kind of catalyzed that he is going to go to network war against Fox News, because it's the only forum left for him. It's the easiest one. It's one he knows. He's not going to want to get on a new website. He wants his fucking Twitter back. And taking a new website that's a shittier website will feel like him stepping down, like marrying an uglier woman. In Trump's world, that's just a terrible crime. She's a better fit for me and has a much better personality, and I like her. No, what have you done? Trump would never do that. Trump's gonna need a network. He's gonna. He was already in the talks for Newsmax and stuff, and the deplatforming of him again, which I applaud. I do think is going to force his hand on other issues, and he's going to want to hashtag get it back, whatever that means. The other thing I think that it'll do is kind of further incentivize him to run for president again, because I think his case for getting his Twitter account back is much stronger if he can argue, I'm the only presidential candidate for president that they won't even allow have a Twitter account. Everyone else is allowed to. You have all these big tech companies, and they pick the winners and the losers. They say, I'm not allowed to run. They won't allow me to do it. But they let Ted Cruz. He gets to have a Twitter account. He'll do that. And I think it'll put the tech companies and anyone who would like to see him deplatformed still in a very uncomfortable position, or hard to defend position of, he is running for president. All these other assholes are running for president, maybe up to and including Mike Pence. What is the justification for continuing to deplatform Donald Trump other than we think he's particularly icky? Mike Pence is not that much better.
It's going to be interesting. It seems like they had the choice between two bad things, and one is worse, which is the next 2 weeks are a very dangerous period that I thought they were going to be a degree more chill.
I thought they were going to be crazy, but crazy in the sense that Trump was going to steal a bunch of stuff and set up a bunch of cons and fire a bunch of people. I wasn't expecting smash the Capitol, but it kind of makes sense if you go back to another one of his quotes: beat him up, I will pay the legal fees. This idea that, remember that one where he had the old guy hit the black dude in the crowd at his rally in 2015? Yes. He was like, beat him up, or 2016, I'll pay the legal fees. They kind of walked away from that a little bit, but that basically is do a riot and I'll pre-pardon you. It's the demo tape of, you guys do the riot and I'll pardon your asses. Yeah. And he can do that. The president does have the power to do a big kind of blanket group pardon thing.
That's why he needs to be impeached. He's got to be.
That won't, I know, stop him on that. Unfortunately, he can still pardon while he's impeached.
I know, but
he can't pardon himself out of impeachment, and he can't.
Can he be removed from office the moment he's no longer president? He can't impeach anybody.
Once he's not, yes. No, and if the Republicans, the argument for them, if they want to be done with this, is very, very strong for impeachment and removal right now, because it's the only chance they have of stopping him. Going back to, again, what deplatforming has done, he's going to want to wreak vengeance on the Republicans who aren't standing up for him right now in the Twitter thing. and he might make a breakaway party. If they want to guarantee that Donald Trump is done in politics and can't run on the Republican ticket or run again on any other party ticket ever, ever, ever again, and thus never have access to the primaries or anything again, impeachment and removal. It bars him from holding federal office. It's the only button. If they don't push this, button right now, if they try to keep making the unity bullshit argument that's bullshit when Democrats or Republicans make it at this point, if they keep making it, what they are signing themselves up for is more Trump. And they won't have the libs to blame. Ben Shapiro won't be able to go, this is how you got Trump. It will be him and all of them not calling for impeachment right now and removal right now, sign themselves up for that. Yeah, they will.
Trump and I mean, if I'm Cruz and Hawley and just looking at the chessboard, this is the best decision to make. I don't want Trump to be running in 2024. I want to be president. I don't understand how you think, like, if you're those two, why is that not a better decision than trying to court these people who could find a new ball to chase after in the meantime?
Well, for those two, it wasn't an option until they did what they did and organized. Like, in order for that to be right, they had to have the riot first or the terrorist attack first.
They want to stay in office at this point.
But I know, like, but to your point, if they don't, like, if Trump does just like a normal end of presidency thing, he was the easy front runner here because like everyone in the party, like 80-something% of the party believes that Trump did not legitimately lose the election. That like he's the rightful king, and that like
sure, but I think you could have a calmer primary of someone being like, look, I know you could be the Ted Cruz who just sort of splits the middle and it's like
being calm, but if Trump,
but people want different, it's just time for a change. And he's 80, he's older Cruz. Now.
Everyone hates Ted Cruz.
I hate Ted Cruz more than anybody
else.
No,
but everyone hates Ted Cruz.
I hate him.
No, but I'm saying like even Republicans hate Ted Cruz. Like people, he almost lost.
Okay, so Josh Hawley, I don't know him as very.
No, but like this is the other thing is it's hard to actually challenge Trump, and again, you have to walk this weird fine line of like, Mr. Trump, I think it's time for us to move on from you, but also, sir, you did lose that election in an unjust way, and you really should rightfully be president. Like,
that's what we just did in the Democratic primaries, though. You have the people who are like, Bernie was robbed.
But
Bernie was robbed. People, you have we don't need Biden people. We have the Elizabeth
But here's
Warren
the thing.
people.
Okay, with the Bernie is robbed people, Bernie was robbed is not a narrative that is internalized by a majority of the party. I don't think the Bernie supporters are a majority of the Democratic Party.
I think they're about the same amount as Trump.
No, they're not. The Trump's like the amount of people I ran off. I don't want to rerun the numbers, but I ran all of the numbers on the last show. The amount of people in the Republican Party, percentage-wise, it's like 70%, 80%. I kept reading it, anything between 68 to 80% believe that Joe Biden did not legitimately win the election in the Republican caucus.
What is their Republican approval of Trump? That's my thing. Is like
they were asked specifically, do you believe that Joe Biden legitimately won the 2020 election? And they do not.
That's not the same thing as
it's
Trump.
Not approval. That's not the same thing as approval. That's a specific question. It's
my point being that I think that you could be the person who says, that sucks, but it's a different time. It's 4 years later. I'm going to take your ideas and champion your people and your cause, and I'm just a better candidate. I think you can be like several people who ran in Bernie's lane and just do that and never insult him, but never sort of.
Well, again, Bernie was never president. Bernie was never even the nominee. So not to rub salt in the wounds of those people. I'm not trying to in this case. I'm just observing facts here. In the case of Trump was the president. He was titularly, in a titular way. Operationally, I'll leave it to the philosophers. In a lot of ways, he never stopped being Donald Trump. But like titularly, yes, he was certainly the party's nominee twice in a row. So I it's way past Bernieology, is what I'm saying. It's like several degrees higher than that because he was the president. And Josh Hawley will still have to say Mr. President, sir, when they're on the debate stage. And if you don't think Trump is going to force the issue on call me Mr. President, have you met Donald Trump? He requires everyone to call him Mr. Trump. Everyone, remember Michael Cohen talked about that. You have to call him Mr. Trump.
No, I've never heard that.
Yeah. He likes Mr. Trump. It's a Vince McMahon thing too. He likes Mr. McMahon. You're not supposed to call him Vince. Yeah, no. So no, he will demand the honorifics. He will require the Mr. Trump, the President Trump stuff. Yeah, no, there wasn't a way for Howley to get the nomination, but for attaching himself to the Stop the Steal thing and hoping Trump was disinterested in the nomination 4 years from now, which he might be. Who knows? But I think the party is doomed. I really like they're on this course. And I guess this gets us to the last part of this. Why Joe Biden? Why Joe Biden? Joe Biden, why? We need a Republican Party. We need an opposition that's principled and strong. Joe, that's a Joe Biden quote. Like 2 days after terror attack that like a good chunk of the Republican Party led on, like literally the speech needs to be the Republican Party needs to get their shit together. It's not like we love you. It's not like you guys are great. Not like how have you lost your way? This is not a bender. They've been doing this for years now. Like I don't need him. The more he talks about unity, the more it's clear it's because he's uncomfortable with accountability. He's way more comfortable saying the word unity than he is and going along to get along, which does have serious Neville Chamberlain energy. I've heard it said, but like, no, I mean, it really does at this point. Versus accountability. And if you want reconciliation, you got to have truth and accountability first.
I think that's going to be interesting. I think if it had not gone so horribly when everyone turned against it so quickly, he might not even be at this point. I will be interested to see if his tone changes as he sees the fury, that there's still a boiling fury with his party, within his party. If she's really going to bring impeachment on Monday, how do you act like that's not happening? So I get there's probably a distraction happening, obviously, with just wanting to get in the building, make the transition happen, and get the COVID stuff. And you've got this, it's like once again, like 2008, when you've got Obama becoming president and the economy is collapsing under itself. So you've got that hanging over your head before you can even have like an inauguration ball. So, you know, its leadership is coming swift and fast. And I think that the people who are calling for unity really need to, like I said in my own Twitter, like go back to the writer's room. You need to check the water temperature right now. We're pissed off, and consequences have to happen, because everything in the past, when something like this has happened, we've just tried to hug it out, even though we are clawing into people. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It's the reason you have Trump, because both sides of the extreme far left and right are the people who feel like none of it matters. Burn it all down. So, hey, if something starts to matter, if you start showing some of these people going away for 10 years.
And that's the other part. Hugging it out feeds into the nothing matters narrative.
Yeah.
Because when you hug it out, you go, all is forgiven, and it almost even scans as no big deal. When Feinstein's hugging Lindsey Graham, the message it sends to you and me is like the last 4 years and all the shit that we went through in the Supreme Court that's now going to be inflicted on us for the next generation or more. Like Amy Coney Barrett's like what, in her 40s? Yeah, like that. When they hug it out, they go, no big whoop. don't lol, nothing matters. It feeds into that, and I definitely understand what grounds people who get kind of really attracted to like that like nihilist leftism. Yeah, seeing Dianne Feinstein act like a goof does make you feel like nothing matters. And when Biden is out living in a fiction world where the Republicans are coming to their senses the day after the Republicans orchestrated a fucking riot that led to the smashing of the Capitol, and members of Congress having to be covered by armed guards in a security and defensive position, and they were basically pinned down at various points. They were pinned down. There is
that's
no
another
unity.
aspect of it. That's another aspect of it is he is. I don't know what his personal, like I always say, you don't know what's actually happening because the things that the people put out are political statements. They've gone through 10,000 people to check them off. So I don't know what's actually happening in terms of Biden conversations with people. But if you're someone like Mike Pence or Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell or any of those people who literally were potentially murdered on Wednesday, you've got some PTSD, you got some trauma, you have some frustration and anger. How do you tell
and Joe
those
Biden
people
needs to wake up to
down?
the idea that if he had been standing there in the House of Representatives for whatever reason, they would have killed his ass.
Yes,
No,
they would have
you
killed
would
him.
have been dead. They would have killed
Kamala
you, buddy.
there? Was
If
Kamala
she had,
there?
I don't know, but it's probably she might have been.
I think she must have been because
they would have killed her ass. Absolutely,
yes.
absolutely, Joe. So like, fucking get lost with this unity stuff. They wanted your head.
Mm-hmm.
They did it because you.
Imagine even the worst sociopaths in Congress who have literally just gone through a terrorist attack, looking like.
No, unity is a gaslight.
Yeah.
That's why I've been so upset with unity, as I'm like, oh, this is a different type of gaslighting. This is a gaslighting that it's all going to be okay.
Face consequences for their actions. It's like an abusive relationship thing. I don't want the flowers. I don't want your fucking flowers.
Right. Like.
You need to go to jail.
Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, yeah, right, exactly. Like, there needs to be accountability. I mean, the worst part about it, too, is some people are hearing, I'm sorry, when what's actually just being said is, please don't hold me accountable.
Yes.
Like you're not even getting, I'm sorry.
Stop being mad.
People. You're not even getting, I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you go to like a very simple one-on-one relationship thing and like an abusive relationship dynamic, it is like, are you still mad about that? I hate this. I'm sorry. I'm starting to get really, really amped up again. Yeah, I'm really frustrated, and they need to get those unity words out of their mouth for month.
Thank God we've got AOC. I've really come around her in the last couple of years, but on this stuff, she's just spot on. And like, I think it's important for progressives to really nail this, and she's getting on it. Yeah, because she's like, there can't be any unity. Let me actually read her exact quote.
Oh yeah, Ted Cruz once again gets scared by a woman.
Hey, I'm in favor of it. Since it appears GOP leaders need a reminder, there is no healing from this without accountability, and there is no unity with white supremacists. If you know the president's state has devolved dangerously. If you're too weak to see, I don't like it when she says he's devolved dangerously. I don't think it's actually devolved all that much. This is just who he is.
It's maintained. It's
level
of boiling.
I have a problem like when people are saying like these are we get into the quibbles department now. This is like a little bit above a quibble, like would be maybe a quabble. I have with Nancy Pelosi bringing up Putin and going like, I bet Putin was pleased on the 7th or whatever when she did her press conference. It's like, Putin had fucking nothing to do with this. Like this is an American domestic fucking. I get in a broad sense, Putin had something to do. Like I get that, but like,
save it for another press release. That's a
right. Like that's not what like that's Rube Goldberg machine at this point, and like Putin did not plan on a smash the Capitol thing.
I mean, the thing about healing and getting better, and that whole metaphor is that when there's a fever burning, you have to take medicine to cool it down. And the medicine in this case needs to be arrests, needs to be censures, needs to be some people resigning, and it can't just be the police who were forced to resign, because those are just no names that nobody actually attaches any like political meaning to. Cruz and Hawley really need to face some consequences. Trump, he's being deplatformed, but that's not the end of it. I think tons of things need to happen. Every single one of these people had a photograph.
In my opinion, if they won Congress, they ought to use the power.
Yeah,
they ought to lead the investigations.
That's just it. Yeah. They never take the power seriously. They always play softball, and we are going to get killed out here. 40,000 people are dead because this sociopath has been in office for the last year, watching us die and die and die and die and die and die.
It's just something. New Jersey, Arizona, Tennessee. These are some of the most dangerous places to be on the planet. Like, actually, like 3 of the most dangerous places to be on the planet if you're worried about COVID-19. Because that's how badly this crisis has been managed in America specifically. It does have to do with bad government. Government you should actually be worried about, despite the ironic name of this show. It is the fruit of bad government. That is what is killing all of these people. Because if government had been telling people stay home and facilitating people being able to stay home and making sure the postal service could deliver additional goods and resources, maybe even help out with groceries, do things to help further get people out of in harm's way and to get the actual if government had been stronger and more muscular, they'd stop flying and stopped airlines, period. No airlines. Nowhere, shut them down. If they had actually done a lot of these things, we'd be in a better place. The poor government response is a large part of why we're in the situation that we're in right now.
And we still have 11 more days until his presidency ends.
But yeah,
every day is a year.
The Democrats need to take the bull by the horns on this. And Joe Manchin, this Joe Manchin experiment, I do not have. I know what Joe Manchin's about. I've known what Joe Manchin's about. He's been my least favorite senator on this show for years. Because I know exactly this is his daughter is the Myland representative of the EpiPen. Yeah. That's who Joe Manchin raised. Good people. And he might flip to be a Republican at any point, anyways. If you look at what Jim Justice did, he said it was his last term. Can you really believe Joe Manchin any further than you can throw him? Answer: no. And it's hard to throw Joe Manchin. So the Democrats, they just picked up 50 seats in Georgia. Here comes Joe Manchin to fucking rain on that parade the day after, saying we might not pass the stimulus checks because who the hell is going to pay for this $2,000 anyways? Did you realize it was going to be $460 billion or something like that?
His entire comment just about the incredulousness of why anybody would need $2,000. I mean, if you send it to, what was it, Romney's sons, those people would have like $20,000. Guess what? Not all of us have.
You campaigned on it, even if you thought it was shithouse policy, like building the wall. If you run on building the wall, the rules of governance, the expectation, and it would be a moral failing to do otherwise, not unlike when Woodrow Wilson ran on, he kept us out of the war and then got them into a war. If you run on, we're going to get you the $2,000 check, you gotta fight to get the $2,000 check. And when Joe Manchin says what he says, he is side-knifing his entire party, not the least of which is Raphael Warnock, who seems pretty cool, 1, and 2, is up for re-election in a really tough re-election campaign in a couple of years here because he was like one of those special election seats. He's not even a full 6-year term. So you're side-knifing your own colleagues.
It's incredible because it just speaks to how completely disconnected he is from the average American, how quickly $2,000 will go. Like for me, that's going directly to a Visa account. I'm not going to spend any of that. I'm not going to go buy some nice new clothes or spend. It's not going to the economy.
As I mentioned, the average American who's behind on rent right now is behind like over $5,000.
Yeah.
If you're behind, you're behind in a deep way. So that money is going to go straight to the landlord. People
And
who have overdraft fees right now, that money is going to go straight to servicing those.
yep,
A
every
lot of
time
it
your overdraft is
fees.
what, $30? Some of those,
Yep.
you can be $1 over, and now you've got $31 in fees.
Crazy
Um,
loans, really predatory shit.
and then the other aspect of it is he's clearly making a statement of what he's going to want to play ball, and it seems like posturing to me.
This is why the
Um,
Democrats need to finish courting Murkowski and get her to go like Angus King Democrat or whatever, because she's been teasing that she's open to
yeah,
flipping. She voted against Kavanaugh because she believed that Brett Kavanaugh was a rapist.
yep.
That clear implication of why like she believed the women. Yeah. She heard enough and she saw enough out of Brett Kavanaugh. She's like, nope, not voting for him. And she voted for Gorsuch. She voted for Coney Barrett, or actually, no, she didn't vote for Coney Barrett. But she did vote for Gorsuch.
Did she
Uh,
not vote for Coney Barrett? How'd she get away with that? She would have
I
had to have.
I don't know. I think she might have just. I'll have to double check that for me.
But
But
Mitt was going to vote for Kavanaugh if he was the senator. He made that clear on the record. So
oh
to
yeah.
me, I'd rather have Lisa than Mitt.
Oh yeah. No. I'd rather have Lisa Murkowski than Joe Manchin. I'll go that far. And I'm not saying that Murkowski's great, but like Joe Manchin sucks. Also, when it comes time to defend Murkowski, we're talking about running in Alaska. It's easy to run in. It's not really expensive, so it's a cheap Senate seat to hold on to.
That's very true.
This election has really changed my brain about the X's and O's and like the board part of this. And like, nah, dude, cheap Senate seats rule. Cheap Senate seats are actually the best deal in politics. If you like, there are 535.
That's where I put my money. I put them in Alaska.
Yeah,
It's just like, might as well.
yeah, no, that's a good one. Wyoming, obviously, the Republicans have a natural thrall on, but like that's another really cheap state for them to run in. So that's an awesome state for Republicans because of that. But if the Democrats could take advantage of Alaska, and Alaska has voted for Democrats in the past, and Alaska has shown that they like the Murkowski brand. She's like they're a family of politicians, so she's a second generation politician. She was able to run for re-election on an independent ticket after the Republicans defected from her in 2012. So she's shown that she can do it, and she wouldn't need that much money from the Democratic Party in the first place to do it. And she would essentially get two bites at the apple because the Democrats could agree to not run a nominee. And so then she could like run in the primary against someone, and if she loses the nomination for the Republican nomination, get a second chance to still win the Senate race. It's a really, really great setup. I know it's mechanical. I know you're like, but she's a centrist. Blah, blah, blah. This is
See,
how you
that's
get
the politics we used to talk about. Those were the fun politics. Where
this
it's
is
just
how
like,
you get shit passed, man. Yeah. This is how politics is really done. It's not like it's not the worst thing that ever fucking happened for our side is the Sorkinism of politics. To a certain extent, the libs absorbed it, but the left also absorbed it. The Bernie people also absorbed it because they like one of the Bernie accounts will like tweet out like he did it. Bernie just saved 30 million people's health care or whatever. Like they do that all the time. That's Sorkinism. That's that same virus here. It's like what happens is like there's a big speech. Bernie gets down there. He's like, "Well, you guys do the right thing," and then they do the right thing because like Ted Cruz is like, "Well, geez, oh boy, I suddenly Bernard, I finally see things your way on this day. America is what we're fighting for here in these hallowed halls." Yeah, no, that's not how it actually goes. It's wheeler dealing.
As someone who was just going through a rewatch of The West Wing, what's interesting is they forget the episodes where they lose, and why they lose, and how they like. There are great lessons in terms of how complicated it is to stroke the ego of some of these people, but it is very, I don't know. I kind of would like something like that again. He tried it with Newsroom, and he does not have the concept of where we at on the ground anymore. So I don't think it's possible. But
Newsroom was really hard too because it's like you had to take a story from last year,
yes,
and get it into this year. and make it feel.
And 2020 hindsight the whole time, and you get to gloat over it the whole time. Like I'm gonna have my character have the moral high ground from the get-go, because we know in hindsight how this turns out. As opposed to, when I watch The West Wing, there are people making really shitty decisions at times. You have the president who's, that's his whole gig, is he's lying for the first 2 seasons about a major medical condition. And just, you had shitty people. They all did stupid stuff. I don't know. I can go down a whole path with that. But yeah, this is messy. It's politics. That's the whole point.
I'm not saying don't enjoy The West Wing. The West Wing is fun. Yeah.
You can't take it from me, man.
I'm not going to take that from. I'm just saying, like.
You know who did take it from me?
Who?
It's HBO Max. They took it from me.
Oh,
it's on Netflix, and now it's on HBO Max.
Oh, ooh, those jerks.
Hey,
no, I look, it's entertaining TV. Like, I mean, it'd be like, Battlestar Galactica ruined our politics. Like, Battlestar Galactica's a great show.
And actually, does a pretty fair job of being the same kind of show as The West Wing.
Okay, so I'm on a rewatch right now. And what is a very interesting episode is, there are 2 very interesting episodes. There is the episode where Gaius Baltar, who is Gaius named after Gaius Gracchus, one of the Gracchi brothers, who is like one of the Roman popularized, who led like a popular revolt and like has many different arcs throughout.
You know my favorite character? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, he's a hoot. Yeah. No, I know I'm just telling the audience here. He has many different arcs, all of which involve leading the masses and generally leading them astray in each different iteration. There's multiple different ones. The recurring theme is he's always leading a group of people astray.
His decisions are always based in fear and trying to keep himself alive.
Yeah, there's a self-preservationist streak. There's also a self-aggrandizing streak. He is a narcissist. And so him as president, it is a very fun rewatch. Let me tell you, buddy. And the trial of Gaius Baltar had really interesting echoes, because I watched it the day after what happened on the Capitol on 1/6. Like that was like, oh, what episode do I have on here? I was like, holy shit, really? Like, come on now. Yeah, that's just silly. You guys are being silly. And then there's
I'm trying to think of Gaius as like a space Trump. And he was just so miserable and sad all the time. Oh,
so man. Is Trump.
I love that.
In a certain way, Trump is miserable. Yeah, he presents publicly facing as happy, but so often he's sad. And so often when you see the tweets, they're from an angry, but like often like kind of like wistful place. Like, oh, they are saying mean things about me, that sort of thing. Oh, poor me. Like, and he'll even like kind of end tweets and stuff with that, like, oh, woe is me shit.
Narcissism is caused by severe emotional neglect. Mental disorders are usually either, the nurture or the nature, and his is very much the nurture, it seems. So, and now he's president, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Only for a few more days. But yeah, the Democrats they got to get off the unity stuff. It is dangerous. And here's the last thing on this. I have been beating up the unity stuff because I do think it's fiction. I do think it's Joe Biden selling people a fictional world that we can't go to, which is bad and dangerous on any number of levels. But the other reason is that this is an escalatory pattern that we're on. As I said, even if there's merely a perceived tip, just the perception of a tit anywhere off in the distance. Is that a tit I see? That is getting 10 tats. This started with Kyle Rittenhouse and paying off his bail and everything. It started with invading the state houses, planning out a terrorist plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, is going into the capital of Michigan and occupying the capital with guns. And it's now escalated. And if you think that there's an off-ramp here, people said that after Charlottesville. But we went from Charlottesville to an and it continued. It didn't stop. It subsided for a moment. The Charlottesville plan of attack went away, but this did not go away, and it is not going to go away. And unless and until our side, all of us, the libs, the left, actually meet this with the requisite force and don't just like worry about big tech. Oh no, they're going to take the First Amendment. First things first. First needs first. This has got to go. It's not about unity or the woes of big tech and Google may be getting too strong.
Yeah, save the talk pieces. We
those are great thinky pieces, and once we deal with the fascist movement that is real, that is really animated and does have a lot of people with real military training and real weapons and real passion and a real willingness to risk their bodies and their lives and their physical well-being on multiple different levels to go and do this, that's the number one problem now. This is in Charlottesville. There's no COVID. This is Charlottesville on COVID. It's worse. It's worse. And these people, they really are nuts. And they really are domestic terrorists. They have the same level of passion and zeal as someone willing to get on an airplane and in the case of the 9/11 hijackers, the craziest thing is they're just kind of like nihilists. A lot of them didn't even really believe in the doctrine. They just didn't believe in anything anymore. And these people are at that threshold. And that's a very, very dangerous threshold and one that everyone should take really seriously. It's not about loving Biden, Pelosi, Pence, name a politician, Ted Cruz even. It's about the fact that once random mobs of people start killing senators because of fiction, not because of rightly held outrages, but because of fiction that they've been sold. We've crossed it'd be bad if it was rightly held outrages. That'd be one thing. It's a completely different and much darker and more dangerous thing when it's complete fiction, entirely fabricated shit that one person is putting into the air and millions are absorbing.
In the internet space, there's these alternate reality games where you usually someone creates a kind of cryptic YouTube video, and
that's
maybe
why
it's
I keep saying you're sus.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
no, sus. You're sus. Okay, that's fine. It's my
So
Among Us joke.
There's these alternate reality games, right? And it's always something where the community jumps in and starts taking clues apart, and the mystery unfolds, and it usually takes months and months, and it's videos, and it's all these different forums and Twitters, and it's a great community if you like media mixed with gameplay, right? Gamification of media.
Yeah.
But what you've got now is an ARG made from QAnon that is now turning into a LARP on the grounds of our houses of democracy in this country.
Yeah, and that LARP serves as a smokescreen, a tactical smokescreen that I think some of them are even aware of. The gamified LARP that the QAnon loonies are providing gives a real tactical smokescreen and a comedic smokescreen to the very real militia and would-be bad actors. Like that person who went to go and put the bombs at the RNC and DNC. Doesn't matter if they're a LARPer or not, although I bet you they aren't a LARPer. I bet you there's someone who really wanted to do real harm.
And then the person who's standing,
shit, but they weren't a LARPer. You know what I mean?
The person who's standing next to Ashley Babbitt as she's being shot and draped in her Trump flag, and she falls to the ground, and the moment reality hits him, you hear moments in like a kind of weird silence that hits for just a fraction of a second as reality hits, and they see that someone is bleeding now, and this is real blood, and this isn't the game, and this was fun, and now I could have been that person on that side of the hallway. I could have decided to climb through a window because it seems cool and fun in the moment. I'm hyped up on all of this. I could be 2 degrees more brainwashed and have made that decision because I don't see the consequences as mattering. And your entire life is different. that's the moment where you
But to
realize
your
this wasn't a
point, the
game.
clarity isn't there until you see the blood.
Yeah.
Like blood, blood can be clarifying, right? Like if you ever been like, oh, I'm bleeding, you know,
Yes.
yeah, or like, and sometimes you have like a more severe thing. Oh, I'm bleeding. Yeah. Oh, that's blood. You're bleeding. Like even when you see it on someone else, like it's a shocking and jarring and like eye-opening sort of moment. The thing is, and this is, I think, probably unless we got final thoughts, this is kind of where I want to end it. Is these people are now at a point where they're going to assemble, they're going to mob, and this is going to escalate until the I'm bleeding moment, which is after a very bad thing has happened. I think you're absolutely right. They see the blood, they get scared. I think, especially the LARPers, these are fundamentally like pansy people. Like these are snowflakes. They're scared. They are people who like want pain and like actually enjoy the thrill of combat and getting hit and stuff. A little bit crazy. These are people who like, who want to go to a rock concert and like are too old to actually like get into any of like the grindcore or anything like that. Like, this is their rock concert.
And that's all fun and good until you are crushed to death. You have a heart attack because you've tased yourself. You have a stroke. You are shot by Capitol Police, or you are a police officer suddenly facing a crowd of people who claim to support you, and you are murdered by them.
Yeah, I do actually feel really bad for the, like, yes, not all cops are great. I I I'm definitely on board with that, and some cops are definitely bad. Definitely on board with that. But you have to realize that there are people who worked on that police force that day who are somewhere within the normal range of cops who like just were trying to, and the Capitol Police is actually a fairly prestigious like detail. Like, so like these are people who are probably, they're not schlubs, they were just completely outmanned. So you're standing on the Capitol. Um you're kind of ambivalent towards these people at best, maybe. They're all screaming at you and they all want to kill you and everything. And like they don't deserve that. You know, like they didn't have that coming. There's no reason that had to happen.
I'm pretty sure the officer that died was actually a Trump supporter. So
Well,
that's
that
got to be a
officer
really
did, yeah, right, yeah, that's the
that's got
crazy
to
part.
really be a cognitive dissonance moment, or the moment of I'm bleeding for someone where, oh my God.
Imagine getting killed by people who are like-minded to you, who voted for the exact same person as you.
Because once in a mob, all bets are off. People don't get trampled to death in a in any sort of usual, I'm trying to think of the word. That's a very specific type of chaos.
Yeah, no, it's very unusual. Yeah, it's that yeah, that's a unique sort of chaos. Yeah, no, it's strange. Any other thoughts?
Um,
I feel like we hit the terror cult thing
I think
pretty
we
good
did.
here.
I guess my final thoughts would be that it's not too late to turn down the flavor aid. If you or anyone you know is in a cult, please seek help. Uh, and the next 2 weeks are going to be interesting times, for better or worse. And if you can stay safe, and see you on the other side.
Yeah, and if you are in a cult right now, please unregister to vote. Do us all a solid. So I just wanted to get that one out there as a PSA. Yeah, no, I think it's a dangerous time right now. Hopefully, Pelosi, it looks like we'll be impeaching, so I will be discussing that next week here. I don't want to get too in the weeds on that. But now is the time for strong and muscular pushback by the Democrats. AOC is doing good work right now. Go and cheer her on. What she's doing is very good. I know a lot of people are on board with her. And yeah, I think that she's got the right tone on this. So keep an eye on her in that space. And yeah, this is really bad. There needs to be a lot of accountability for this. Don't let people play what happened on 1-6 down. This was actually worse than we all realized the day of, as bad as it was. That's where I want to leave it. Don't worry about the government. Listener support podcast. Go to patreon.com/DWATG. You can see the show. You can see the visual gags. You can see where I grab guitars from when I sing my Donald Trump, Bob Dylan songs. Do you want one more Bob Dylan song by Donald Trump? Here we go.
I don't, but I guess I do.
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me in the Jingle Jam Money. Mega. There we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stunning.
No, I know a lot about music. I'm actually teaching people. They're very inspired by me. You can get guitar lessons too. You can do that through TaylorRobinson.com. I'm doing it through Zoom as well. If you're a listener to this show here, I will do it at a listener price, $30 an hour, which is actually a discount from my normal of $40 an hour. So if you're interested in doing that, there's the New Year's special. Fuck it, we'll run that New Year's special for the next month. $30 for guitar lessons the next month. Otherwise, after that, it will go back up to 40. But if you get started this month, 30. All right, and then other than that, we're on PayPal. We're on paypal.me/DWATG, and then also the Cash App at #ChrisNove. Those are all the places you can go to support the show. If you do so, let me know so I can get you on the mailing list and get you all the extra additional content. Patreon people, thank you so much for supporting the show. Lindsay Duke, thank you for coming on.
Always.
And until the next one, which will be like in 2 days. So I get to go to In-N-Out Burger right now, eat a hamburger in the parking lot, and then come back and edit this and post this so that I can be ready to like hit the ground running on Monday, because you know Monday's gonna be fucking crazy. So until the next one, which is in just a few days, wish me a good dinner, which I'll have already eaten by the time you heard this, and I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.